Hello, and welcome to the Cyber Wardens Foundations webinar. My name is Kimberly Roberts-Saleh, and I'm the head of marketing and communications for Cyber Wardens, and I'm your Cyber Wardens educator for this webinar today. I'm excited to talk to you about the small business cyber risks that you face as a small business owner or employee, and about the red flags that you need to be able to identify to make sure that you stay safe online, and how to put some simple strategies in place in your business to boost your cyber safety. Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I'm presenting this webinar today. That would be the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people, and from which you are joining this webinar. I recognize their continuing connection to lands, waters, and communities, and pay my respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and to elders past and present. So let's dive right in. What is Cyber Wardens? Cyber Wardens is a program that was an initiative of the Council of Small Business Organizations of Australia, also known as COSBOA, and it's funded by the Australian government. So it's a free program that is delivered online for small businesses, sole traders, and small business employees to be able to gain the skills that they need to be able to identify what cybercrime looks like and to stay safe online to help protect their business. At its core, Cyber Wardens is a quick and simple tool. It's delivered in really accessible language. There's no tech jargon. It's really designed for small businesses, small business owners, small business employees who don't necessarily have a tech background and who want to learn more about cybersecurity and how to help protect their business. So let's talk quickly about what to expect in this webinar. So this is a webinar that you are able to watch on demand, so you can pause throughout. It will time out after a while, so if you stay paused for more than 30 minutes, the webinar will time out, so you will have to restart it. And you'll need to watch until the end to be able to graduate and to become a Cyber Warden. Throughout the webinar, you'll see some interactive engagements come up, so you'll see some pop-ups via quizzes and polls on the side of your screen. Please use those as you wish. It will allow you to get that interactive engagement that we deliver through the webinar. There's also going to be a chat function that you're able to access, and you can ask questions through the chat function. These might be answered live, or they might be responded to via email once someone has responded to your question and assessed it. But feel free to ask any question you want through the chat function. So what's on the agenda for today? We're going to be looking at the small business cybersecurity risks that you face. So those are essentially the most common types of cybercrime that target small businesses. And then we'll look at the red flags that you need to be able to identify, and the warning signs that you need to be able to identify to be aware that you might be the target of a cybercrime. We'll talk about why cyber safety is a team sport and where you can make sure that your whole team is across cybersecurity to ensure that your business is as well protected as possible. We'll have a look at some of the bad habits that we all have online that we need to start breaking to ensure that we are more cyber resilient. And then at the end, you'll become a Cyber Warden. So after this webinar, you'll receive your Cyber Warden certificate via email. And you'll also become part of the Cyber Wardens community, which means you'll be able to expand your knowledge with Cyber Wardens Level 1, which is a deeper dive into small business cybersecurity. We've also got a refresher course if you want to, down the line, refresh your skills. And we will soon be launching our Cyber Wardens Level 2 with new topics and deeper dives into specific topics for cybersecurity for small businesses. You'll also receive updates on the latest cybersecurity news and further Cyber Wardens courses, so you'll become part of our community, and we will be in touch with you periodically to let you know what's new. So before we dive into the content, I want to have a look at the 2024 top threats. So let's take a step back and look at the wider picture. When we surveyed some small businesses early in 2024, we asked them what they perceived the top threats were to their small businesses in this economy. Not surprisingly, energy prices, the cost of staff were definitely the top two, but within a close third, cybersecurity threats came up. So if we have a look at the list here, a lot of factors are beyond our control. If we look at interest rates, workforce shortages, weather events, COVID-19, pandemics, unfortunately, those are all factors that are outside of our control as small businesses. However, cybersecurity and your resilience to cyber threats is something that you can control. And that's where Cyber Wardens comes in. And that's why it was designed to be able to give you those tools to help protect your business online. So before we dive into the content, we've got a little quiz. I mentioned at the beginning that there would be some quizzes. So I will pop the questions up on the screen. I'll give you a few seconds to answer on the pop-up that comes up, and then I will reveal the answer. So there's 4 questions. It shouldn't take too long, and it'll allow you to position yourself within your own knowledge base and see where you sit within the cybersecurity knowledge and space. So the first question is, how many cyber attacks do you think are reported every day? So we've got 38, 121, or 240. Give you a few seconds. The pop-up should be coming up. The answer is 240. So that means every 6 minutes daily, an attack is reported. That means that by the time you finish watching this webinar, at least 5 attacks will have been reported. And when we think about the number of attacks that are reported daily, what's really important to remember is that those attacks are only just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of attacks or scams that go unreported. If you think of the number of text messages that you get where you know it's a scam and you just don't respond to it, or you delete it, those constitute cyber attacks that go unreported. So really that 240 daily is just the tip of the iceberg, and it's a really good illustration of how prevalent and how big the scope of cyber threats is to small businesses and to individuals in Australia. The next question is, how much cybercrime do you think targets small businesses? So we've got 16%, 43%, or 67%. I'll give you a few seconds. And the answer is 43%. So if you answer 67%, you're on the right track. Essentially, that means that you do realize that it is a huge issue for small businesses. When we look at 43%, that means almost half of all cybercrime, and that includes every type of scam, from the big data breaches that we hear of in the news to big corporations, all the way down to those text messages that you receive on an individual basis. All of those cyber attacks, 43% of them are directed at small businesses. So it's a fallacy to think that because you're a small business, because you work for a small business, you're not attractive to cyber criminals, or they won't target you because they're more interested in the higher end of town. In fact, they are more interested in small businesses because small businesses are a more attractive target for cyber criminals for a range of reasons, including the fact that often your IT or cybersecurity infrastructure isn't as robust as a big corporation would be. Fewer employees means that employees and owners wear many hats, which means they're very busy, they miss some detail, and that's where the cyber criminals can get in and launch some attacks. So it's a fallacy to think that by being small, you're not attractive, and it's really important to remember that small businesses are a huge target of cybercrime in Australia. The next question is, how much do you think a cyber attack costs on average to a small business? So we've got 9,500, 49,600, and 57,300. And the answer is 49,600. So the average cost has risen from 9,000 in just 3 years. So that's essentially 5-fold. When you think about the cost as well, that's the average cost. So it's really important to remember that it could be much higher than that if you are the victim of a cybercrime. And I don't know about you, but that's nearly $50,000. And there's so many things I can think of doing with $50,000 that don't involve giving my money to cyber criminals. So that figure usually puts things in perspective for small business owners and employees, and really drives the point home that financial damage can be quite high if you are the victim of a cybercrime. And the last question is, how many attacks do you think are caused by human error? So we've got 95%, 54%, or 23%. And the answer is 95%. So again, we might be tempted to think that cybercrime or cyber attacks are due to a faulty device, to a faulty laptop or phone, but 95% of attacks are actually due to human error. So they're caused by a human making a mistake. And we'll have a look a bit later as what kind of mistakes those can look like and why it's really important for everyone across your team to be aware of cybersecurity threats and how to protect against them. So well done on the quiz. I hope you got most of the answers right. Now let's have a look at the most common cybercrimes that target small businesses. So we've got three really prevalent top types of cybercrimes that target small businesses. The first one is inbox break-in, and that's probably the one that is the most prevalent. And inbox break-ins is essentially what it says on the box. It's when a cyber criminal is able to break into your inbox, your email inbox, and essentially access everything that you store in your inbox. So when you think of everything that you store in your email inbox, there's, I'm sure, some sensitive data, some passwords, some banking information, some strategy documents, some employee information, all this data, once they're in your inbox, they have access to it. So essentially, your inbox is a treasure trove of information for cyber criminals. And from there, they're able to launch secondary attacks, which we'll look at in just a minute. The second one is fake invoices, and that goes hand in hand with the inbox break-ins. Fake invoices is when cyber criminals take an invoice, a legitimate invoice from a supplier, and replicate it by changing just the banking details to get you to essentially think that you're paying your supplier, but you're paying the cyber criminals or the scammers. That usually goes hand in hand with the inbox break-ins because they'll be able to send it to your inbox through looking at your supplier invoices and what they look like. And what they can do as well, conversely, is use your own invoices and send fake invoices to your customers. So not only can that cause financial damage for you if you're paying the wrong invoice, but it's also a risk for your reputation if you're sending out invoices to your customers without you knowing, and your customers are paying fake invoices thinking that they're paying you. And then the third one is banking burglary. So banking burglary is online banking fraud, and that's when cyber criminals access your bank account. So by finding your logins, often through your inbox, or by trying a combination of logins and passwords because you don't necessarily have strong passwords in place, they're able to access your banking account, your online banking account. And once they're in your once they're in your bank account, they're able to essentially act as yourself. So they're able to transfer money from your bank account to their own. So now that we've talked about the inbox break-in, I want to spend a bit more time on that because I want to talk about what kind of attacks can be launched from an inbox break-in. So once they're in your inbox, it makes it essentially a launch pad for them to be able to launch secondary attacks from your inbox. And there's a range here on the screen of types of attacks that they can launch from your inbox, anywhere from company impersonation, so impersonating you, to your colleagues, to your staff, to your employees, to your suppliers, to your customers. So once they're in your inbox, they can act as yourself and make requests that you wouldn't necessarily make to your stakeholders. They can change payment details for your supplier invoices or send fake invoices. They can just straight up steal business files and data and sensitive data. They can search for passwords and logins. So, like I mentioned before, once they're in, they've got access to all the information that is stored, what you think is securely in your inbox. Now, how do we make sure that we keep these cyber criminals at bay from our inboxes? There's two tips that I want you to put in place. And if there's one thing that I want you to action as soon as you finish this webinar, it's making sure that not only does your email account have a long, strong, and unique password, so I want you to make sure that your password is not easily identifiable. So we're not looking at password 123. We're not looking at pets' names or children's names. We're putting a string of letters, characters, and symbols together that is really hard to break or to identify or to break into. And then in addition to that long, strong, and unique password, we're setting up a multi-factor authentication on our email inbox. So multi-factor authentication is a second layer of security added onto all your online accounts. You can do that on all your accounts, and I do recommend it. But if you've got time to do just one today, your email inbox would be the one. So multi-factor authentication is also known as MFA. And that is when you receive a code once you've logged in to allow you to access your account. So you might have seen it on your phone before. You get a text message, or you might get a code through your email, or you might have to access an app to be able to access the account. So that's called multi-factor authentication. If it's not set up on your email inbox, you can go into your settings, and there will be in your privacy settings a way to be able to set that up for you. So now that we are all familiar with the types of cybercrimes that target small businesses, it's really important to now be able to know how to identify the red flags that might alert you to the fact that you could be the victim of a cybercrime. So there's 7 red flags, and we'll go through them in the next few minutes. The first one is unexpected invoices. So as a small business owner or employee, you probably have a pretty good grasp on the kind of invoices that are supposed to come through, on what the amounts would look like, on the services that the invoices would be covering. So anytime you see an invoice that you weren't expecting, that's usually a good time to raise the alarm and double check that this is in fact a legitimate invoice. Cybercriminals will take advantage of really busy periods, for example, Christmas period or the end of financial year. And they'll be able to, they'll try to send through the invoice so that you can, in the hopes that you batch process them, and in the hopes that you don't necessarily pay too much attention to detail. The next one is uncommon or misspelled email addresses. So we see here on the screen that we've got 3 S's on my business. So that's not necessarily easily identifiable if we're busy. And again, they prey on the fact that you're busy, and they hope that you'll miss those dodgy looking email addresses to impersonate the sender. So often they'll change one letter, they'll change an O to an A, they'll put 2 N's instead of an M, 2 V's instead of a W, just tiny changes. And if you're not paying attention, that's how they'll send you, either they'll make a request for payment, or they'll send you a link to click through, which will end up being, unfortunately, a dodgy link, a phishing link, which we'll look at very, very soon. So just making sure that you have a look at the detail of the email addresses where you're receiving your emails from is a good step to making sure that you are not becoming the victim of a cybercrime. The third one is a huge one. It's the change of banking details for a usual supplier. So if you use a supplier regularly, you will most likely have their banking details set up in your accounting software so that when you pay an invoice, those banking details are already stored and you can pay the invoice quickly. If you have a request to change the banking details, that should be a huge red flag. And I would advise you not to pay the invoice until you have double checked with the supplier that they did indeed change their banking details. And I want you to do that through searching their phone number independently. So often what they'll do is they'll make the invoice look exactly like your supplier invoice. They'll change the banking details. They'll change the phone number as well on the invoice in the hopes that you'll call that phone number and the scammers will answer the phone number. So if you get an invoice with new banking details, search the phone number for your supplier independently and call them directly to verify that they have indeed changed their banking details before you pay anything. The fourth and fifth one kind of go hand in hand. It's the pressure to act urgently or confidentially, coupled with unusual requests. So often, if you receive an email from someone you know asking you to do something confidentially, not to tell the team, to do it very quickly, it might not be in character for that person. And that's where trusting your gut is a really powerful tool. If it sounds weird, if it doesn't sound in character for the person sending you the email, double check with them directly before you act on any request. The next one is an unusual or hidden link. So I talked about the phishing links briefly just earlier. A phishing link is a link that looks like it might be a legitimate link, but that will land you on a landing page where you'll be prompted to log into an account. For example, here, there's a Facebook page, log in. They're telling the user that their Facebook page is going to be shut down unless they log in and action the request. So once the user logs in onto the phishing link, the scammers will have access to all their login details. And from there, they'll be able to access the account. And they'll be able to also use those login details across other accounts, which is why we say to always use different passwords, because if you've got the same combination of logins and passwords across multiple accounts, they'll be able to access your multiple accounts. And then the last one is suspicious attachments on emails or social media messages. So we see here, the extension file is RAR. So we all operate online. We all receive a lot of attachments. We usually have a good understanding of what an image attachment looks like in the extension file type. So we're usually looking for JPEG or PNG or PDF. So anything that doesn't look like a legitimate image is probably because it's not. So the file here is RAR, it's not a JPEG, and the RAR file is a ransomware file. So once the user opens that file because they want to look at the faulty product that the scammer is saying they received, once they open that document, unfortunately, the ransomware will be installed on their device. So it's really important, again, to check the detail on those types of requests. And it can be something as tiny as the file type on an attachment. So now that we've looked at how we can identify cybercrime and the red flags that we should all be on the lookout for, I want to talk about the importance of building a culture of cyber safety within your team. So we saw just before that 95% of cyber attacks are caused by human error. That means that everyone on your team needs to be across what cyber threats can look like and how to protect themselves and your business from being the victim of a cybercrime. So there's 5 reasons why cyber criminals will target your team and will target the humans in your team. The first one is a lack of training, and that's where Cyber Wardens comes in. That's where we've developed this program to be able to provide the training in an easy, accessible, and simple manner to small business owners and employees so that they can get the skills they need to be safe online. The second one is human error. And we've talked about what human error can look like. It can be anything like clicking on the wrong link, clicking on a phishing link, sharing passwords with other people, making your passwords open and vulnerable to attacks. It can be paying a fake invoice without knowing. So all those tiny human errors that can occur is what cyber criminals will prey on to try to infiltrate your systems and to try to get you to become, unfortunately, a victim of their scams. Another one is working off-site. So working off-site, we don't necessarily think about that, but if you're working at a cafe or in an airport and you've got your laptop open, there's people milling around you, it's really easy for someone to look over your shoulder at what you're doing on your computer. They can look at all the details that you've got on your screen. They can look at the passwords and the login details that you're putting in when you're typing them in. So really important to be aware of your surroundings when you're working off-site, and also to try to connect on private Wi-Fi networks if you can. So I know sometimes it's hard, and public Wi-Fi will be the only Wi-Fi available. In that case, I would limit the activity that you're doing on your computer or on your device. But if you can connect to a private network or to your phone hotspot or to a VPN, that really does add a layer of protection to the activity that you're doing when you're working offsite. The next one is being busy and missing details. So we've talked about that. That can look like anything from missing a typo in an email address to batch processing invoices because you don't have time to look at them individually. And again, cyber criminals will prey on the fact that you're busy and that your team is busy to try to infiltrate and to try to get you to fall prey to their attacks. And then the last one is personal targeting. And that really is a display of how cyber criminals will play on emotions to try to get you what they want you to do. So essentially, they'll prey on your empathy. They'll send you an email, impersonating your boss, asking you to transfer money or asking you to go on that special mission, that urgent request. They'll prey on the human emotions, wanting, they'll know that you want to please your boss, or you want to have empathy for whoever is asking the request. So they'll prey on those emotions to get you to do what they're asking you to do. So again, it's really important to remember that we're all human and mistakes do happen. It's definitely not shameful to be the victim of a cyber attack, because as we saw, 95% of them are caused by human error. It just highlights how important it is to just stay on guard and to be able to recognize cyber attacks or the start of a cyber attack when it is targeted to you or your business. So just a reminder here of the types of human error that can occur in terms of cyber crime. So we've looked at, failing to spot a phishing link, paying a fake invoices, repeating our passwords, using short passwords rather than strong, long, and unique ones. And there's a few more habits as well that I want to have a look at, just to highlight what we do every day online, what can make us vulnerable to cybercrime, and how to avoid doing those habits. So there's a few habits here that I'm sure you do. I have been known to do them as well. And it's a good wake-up call just to remind us all to revise our habits and to put strategies in place that make us safer online. So if we look at snoozing a software update, it's really easy to snooze it. You're doing a Zoom meeting, you're in a document, you're writing a pitch, you're writing a proposal. You don't have time to do the software update. You don't want to be interrupted. You snooze it. The more you snooze a software update, the more you are losing out on vital updates to your software for security fixes, bug fixes, and that's where your system becomes more vulnerable to cybercrime or to cyber criminals, infiltrating. So really important not to snooze software updates when we can, and to action them as soon as possible. And that goes with putting your laptop in sleep mode as well. So at the end of the day, I know that it's really tempting to just close the lid on your laptop and, deal with work tomorrow. But it's really important to turn off your laptop and not just close the lid, because once you turn it off, that's when, again, those software updates can be actioned and implemented. When your laptop is in sleep mode, none of this can happen. And so it leaves your device vulnerable to any kind of weaknesses on your software. We've looked at passwords as well. So short passwords, reusing passwords, a password spreadsheet that you're keeping on your desktop or that you're sharing around with your colleagues. All of those make it really easy for cyber criminals to access your passwords and to access your accounts. So again, I want to look at long, strong, and unique passwords across all of your devices, all of your accounts. And once you've got those passwords in place, you can easily manage them by using a password manager. So a password manager is a software that's encrypted online, where you've got one master password that you need to remember to your password manager, and all of your passwords are stored into that software, where you don't have to remember all of them, and where they are safely stored where cyber criminals cannot access. So I would encourage you to take a screenshot of this slide, because it's a really good one to just remind yourself of the habits that you might have and where you can break them easily. Another one that I didn't mention is the out-of-office messages. So the out-of-office messages, it's really tempting to put a lot of details when we go on leave, where you'll be, what dates you'll be leaving, where you'll be traveling to. But all that information makes it really easy for cyber criminals to impersonate you. So the more information you give them, the easier it is for them to paint a picture of where you are, and it makes them easier for them. It makes it easier for them to talk to your suppliers or to your stakeholders or to anyone in your inbox, anyone in your contacts, and pretend that they are you, and then make requests on your behalf. So again, when we're setting out of office messages, we keep them really nice and short. I will be away from this date to this date. I will respond to your email upon my return. So we've looked at the types of cybercrimes that are most common for small businesses. We've looked at the red flags and how to identify that you might be the victim of a cybercrime. And we've looked at the bad habits that we all have that we need to break to be able to stay safe online. Despite all of that, it might happen that you are unfortunately the victim of a cybercrime. And like I said before, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It happens to a lot of people daily, every 6 minutes, in fact. So it's just really important to know once you are, if you are the target or if you are the victim of a cyber crime, what to do and where to report. So I've put on this slide here a range of different organizations that you can reach out to. Those are all government bodies, so they're all legitimate organizations that can help you. And of course, if you're the victim of online banking fraud, you need to contact your bank as soon as possible when you realize that you have been defrauded, so that they can put a freeze on your accounts and try to prevent any further online banking fraud to occur. So on that note, I want to congratulate you for becoming a Cyber Warden. So I hope that you've learned the basic skills that you need to stay safe online. I hope that this webinar has been helpful in providing you with those skills that you need to protect your small business. And I hope that it's given you the incentive to further your knowledge with our further course offerings of level 1 and soon level 2. So you will be receiving an email with your graduation confirmation. So that should be coming through shortly. In the meantime, you can access resources on our website. We have a range of resources. We've got posters that you can put in your business. We've got some little fact sheets, and we've also got blog posts, videos, small business stories. So you can access all of those through the QR code here. Last, if you have been the victim of a cybercrime and you want to share your story, please get in touch with us. Like I mentioned before, we really want to destigmatize cybercrime and destigmatize falling prey to cybercrime. So the more we talk about it, the more it helps other small businesses relate to it, and also it helps them protect themselves online. So if you have a story to share, or you yourself have been the victim of a scam, please get in touch with us on hello@cyberwardens.com.au or through our social media channels. You can send us a DM to share your story. So I hope that this has been very helpful. You can ask us a question through the chat function. We will respond to it as soon as possible. And I would encourage you to keep learning about cybersecurity. Welcome to the Cyber Wardens community. And I hope that this has been very helpful for you. So on that note, have a great rest of your day. And I look forward to welcoming you to the Cyber Wardens community. Thank you.